Miguel Diaz, by far one of my favorite characters in all of Cobra Kai and one of my favorite protagonists in any martial arts story. He has the tale of a nerdy kid turned badass and is definitely a fan favorite. Hey guys, my name is Tyler, and today we will be diving into the character known as Miguel Diaz and what specifically he stands for and why his arc in Season 3 is probably his best arc to date and one of the best arcs Cobra Kai really has to offer. As we all know, Miguel would smack his back onto the railing. However, before we even dive into that, we need to take it a few steps back, specifically back to Episode 1, Season 1. Miguel Diaz was a boy who moved right next to who he would find to be his sensei, Johnny Lawrence. The moment we see Miguel and the rest of the moments we see him in Episode 1 as a kind-hearted character, even when he accidentally drops the fact that Kyler and them are underage. He apologizes and really doesn't mean to cause any harm. But, you know, Kyler, being the bully character he is, would proceed to then bully Miguel, and luckily Johnny Lawrence would then come in. And after this, we get to see how Miguel wants to learn karate to try and defend himself. He just wants to get by just defending himself. He's tired of being picked on. We clearly see this. Luckily, Johnny would turn around and decide to become Miguel's sensei, and we see Miguel just go through the training arc that any really protagonist would go through with a mentor, you know, being a weak kid to then being capable. However, I feel like Cobra Kai modernizes this trope by having it be kind of realistic. Although Cobra Kai, you know, at this point is not really realistic, since we have literally just trained children throwing each other into walls. Early Season 1, it really wasn't like that. It seemed a lot more grounded and realistic to me. So I feel like Miguel going through this training arc and how it kind of just was going at a perfect pace, it really didn't bother me at how, you know, quote-unquote basic this arc was, since it's a lot more of a modern and fresh take on this trope. Anyways, we get to clearly see Miguel just going through this training arc, and at first, you know, using karate to try and defend himself. He gets jumped, but the last time he faces off against Kyler, in Season 1 specifically, we get to see him defending Sam, the girl that he wanted to get with, but Kyler was in the way. Now Kyler's being an asshole to his girl, and Miguel doesn't like this, and so he intervenes, using everything Johnny taught him and defeating the bullies that were picking on him for the past 5 episodes. Johnny, after finding this out, would award Miguel the first gi that he won back in his first tournament. A very father and son-like moment for the two, which is kind of ironic since Johnny is someone who failed his son, and Miguel never really knew his father, both unintentionally filling the voids in their life that they needed. Speaking of father and son, Robbie sees his father and Miguel hugging, which would establish to Robbie that Johnny clearly doesn't need or want Robbie all that much. Obviously, that couldn't be any farther from the truth, but from Robbie's perspective, that's how it is. As the season progresses, we see how even when Miguel learned to fight and all this stuff, he didn't really change his personality and really didn't change to just be a jerk or anything like that. When he even defends Hawk and says to Johnny how he doesn't understand how it feels to be like them. Miguel is also shown to apply the karate lessons that he learned from Johnny Lawrence to real life, with striking first and also saying how to never give up. And we see how Johnny really does influence Miguel, since originally Miguel would have stayed friends with Sam, but due to Johnny's voice going to his head, he wouldn't give up. Anyways, due to Miguel not giving up and using what he learned, he got the girl he wanted, as Johnny got the All Valley for Cobra Kai back. The two celebrate and things go smoothly for Miguel, until he hears Johnny's side of the story in Karate Kid and sees Robbie and Sam talking at the table. From Miguel's perspective, in all honesty, it looks really bad for Sam. See, Sam was originally saying to Daniel, her dad, you know, the person that Miguel wants to meet, and when they were on the phone, Sam was just saying how, oh, it's just a lab partner. Obviously, Miguel would feel some type of way since he literally told his side of the family about his girlfriend. Her house is quote-unquote World War III, but when Miguel pulls up, everything's all fine and dandy. And to make all matters worse for my boy Miguel, Sam literally tried convincing Miguel to try and change dojos, but because Miguel was loyal to Johnny Lawrence, he wasn't going to do that. Sam then tries to ignore the problem they clearly have, which Miguel dislikes. And at that point, Sam would get grounded, and Miguel, from Miguel's perspective at least, would just be enraged at the fact that he was calling and texting her all day, and even try to apologize for disliking a problem that they clearly can't ignore. And he then uses this as fuel to then get intoxicated and accidentally hit Sam, which isn't his fault, okay? He's intoxicated, leave him alone. Plus, Robbie and Sam were literally holding each other. So from Miguel's perspective, plus being intoxicated, it really doesn't look good. So people who try to attack Miguel and say that this is a bad moment in his character, hard disagree. Anyways, this then sets up the All Valley with Sam breaking up with Miguel, and Miguel's rage and fury would then be taken into the All Valley, which Miguel would be at his most enraged and angriest here, and honestly, this is probably Miguel at his worst, other than his Coyote Creek self. Miguel basically cheats to win when he definitely had the capabilities to not really do that. He definitely could contend with Robbie, but him just cheating was just a bad direction. However, this was purposefully made so for Johnny to try and look out for this and make sure it doesn't get any further or escalate. It's very bittersweet, and honestly one of my favorite endings in any kind of series, because we want Miguel to win, but he does it via hitting Robbie's damaged arm, fighting his opponent while his opponent is not at his best. And so Johnny would get on Miguel and Hawk's case, especially Miguel, after the All Valley, making sure they don't go astray. Especially Miguel, remember I said that because we see how Miguel's mom is saying Miguel had this weird expression on his face, but I guess it could be his game face. But Johnny says for Carmen not to worry, and that he promises Miguel won't go astray. And at that point, we get the burger scene, or them at the burger place scene, I should say. And Johnny and Miguel have, honestly, probably one of the best scenes in the entire series, with Johnny giving out his best performance. And the reason why this affects Miguel is because he's never really had a father figure in his life, and when Johnny is explaining how he never was the father to his son, however, Miguel was filling that void, this is essentially the scene conveying this. This scene at that point in time was just a season worth of build-up and basically just the series establishing to the viewers that both these characters love and care for each other. Johnny may have failed his own son, but not Miguel. After this, the next important moment in Miguel's life would be meeting Tori and trying to go all out on Sam and making the cringiest, creepiest, and ugliest video on the planet. This led into Tori taking matters into her own hands and them being a couple. However, we clearly see Miguel being hesitant and obviously still kind of having feelings for Sam. However, Tori is trying to fill that void, but Miguel knows deep down that this void can't be filled by Tori. Obviously, this is clearly shown a lot more in Season 3 when Miguel and Tori just disagree with each other, but I want to get into that a little bit more since that's, Season 3, but right now we're in Season 2. I think another great moment in Miguel's life that I kind of slept under was him and his interactions with Kreese. Basically, how Johnny's teachings really influenced Miguel when he tries to deny Kreese's teachings. But he would soon fall under a similar spell that everyone else would, thanks to his girlfriend Tori. What a great girlfriend, by the way. Miguel would learn the ways of no mercy, but Johnny would put a stop to this, and before Miguel could proceed any further down the dark spiraling path, however, at a big cost. You see, this teaching would actually be applied in the next big fight Miguel would be in, which is the school fight. Obviously, we know Miguel and Sam kiss. Miguel pulls back and says how they can't be together. However, Tori doesn't know that, and Tori goes crazy. And we get Sam versus Tori, basically Cobra Kai versus Miyagi-Do, and everybody showing off their true philosophy and what they believe in, and especially, Miguel and Robbie, and they're no exception. We see this with Chris and Mitch, Sam and Tori, Hawk and Dimitri, etc. This school fight is a battle between two philosophies that should have ended years ago, decades ago. And so with this, we see how Miguel, the Cobra Kai student, shows mercy, and the person who's supposedly fighting for the good side show the exact opposite of what Miguel showed, and after that, Miguel falls. Let's go, guys. Season 3 Miguel. I've been holding back, wanting to speak on this, waiting to speak on this, and so here we go. The first thing I want to get into is how Miguel was always fighting in his head and never giving up. After Johnny spoke to him, it was very clear a spark in Miguel ignited. He rises and questions Johnny about how he paid the price even though he was doing the right thing, and Johnny would just say, I don't know. Miguel is just going through so much confliction and frustration. He doesn't understand. He has so many questions. And he takes this all out on Johnny, the person who is directly responsible for his injury. You can't blame him, and it's definitely one of the best performances in the series. Afterwards, we get Johnny praying for Miguel, and when he visits him one more time, we see how Johnny needs to focus on what's the most important to him, which is his student. And so Miguel and Johnny start back at square one, but now Miguel is crippled. They proceed to go through the training, and during the process, Johnny would also be trying to connect with his ex, and this would lead into Miguel and Tori encountering each other for the first time ever since the event. He and Tori have a talk, and Miguel clearly doesn't see the Cobra Kai way anymore and believes going down this path of showing mercy sometimes is the right choice. He says how Tori needs help, and he means this not in a mental way, but in terms of her philosophy and what she believes in. This is Tori taking it the wrong way, which is kind of on her, and if you guys are going to be like, well, Miguel shouldn't have said that to her. Well, she shouldn't have taken it that way. After this, he snaps on Johnny, which is a big moment since after this he's able to stand again, and he would thank Johnny for what he's done, and Johnny understands what Miguel was saying, and even though Miguel, partially was taking out his anger on Johnny, Johnny's eyes were opened when Miguel said this to him. Also, I know I didn't really touch upon this, but Miguel's pacing to, recovering from his fall and from his accident, honestly, very perfect, and I can't really complain about that. It all gets a lot kind of worse for Miguel once he goes into the school and him just realizing how much everything has changed ever since that incident. Cobra Kai is now a group of bullies hanging out with literally the people that were picking on them last year, aka Hawk and Kyler. Miguel would try and convince his best friend, aka Eli/Hawk, to join him and Johnny, but obviously Kreese stops that and they are just brainwashed in Miguel's eyes. After Miguel realizes that not only his ex but his best friend Hawk are now on the other side, on the opposite side as he's in, it kind of hurts him. And especially when Kreese makes that remark about Miguel, and Miguel was just ready to go and fight. I think Miguel walking up to Kreese, however, Johnny and Kreese stopping this, I think is a scene of Miguel just showing but not telling us that he's had enough. We see him running up to him, showing how even when he's weak, he's still the same old Miguel at heart and will win in the right way, not the wrong way. Speaking of Miguel being weak, we see how Miguel can't even throw a literal kick. And Johnny, when talking about the All Valley with Miguel, would say to Miguel how he wasn't expecting for Miguel to go up and try and win again anyway because he's not at his, prime. Miguel would defend himself saying how, yeah, he has to win again. He can't just win once and back out, he needs to do it again. He needs to prove to everyone that he can do it again. He's a character that never gives up. And the fact that Johnny's trying to tell him to give up right now is something that Miguel doesn't understand because Johnny's doing all this work to help him just to tell Miguel that he can't do it. Miguel is going to do it. He's going to prove that he can do it. He's going to keep getting back up no matter how many times he keeps falling over, whether it be not being able to throw a kick, whether it being not being able to save his relationship with Tori, or whether it be failing to try and save his friend from the dark side, or aka Hawk. He still keeps on going. That's the appeal of Miguel Diaz. He still keeps moving forward. No matter how bad things look for him, he's never going to give up, and that drive, that motivation, that determination defines his character. I have two more scenes I want to specifically talk about. I'll talk about the in-betweens and stuff like that, but there's two main scenes that define Miguel's whole arc and Miguel as a character. The speech to the council and his fight and encounter with Kyler. The speech scene is quite literally a throwback to Johnny convincing the council, with both of them saying how it's about confidence, and they convey the same message with basically how karate gives the losers or the unique people confidence. It gives them a place to feel welcome, and obviously this scene was clearly meant to be a parallel to the season 1 scene that Johnny had, to show how his teachings really influence his student. Like, the detail that Cobra Kai puts into Miguel and Johnny's relationship and how Johnny's teachings and his philosophy really means a lot to Miguel is just something to really appreciate. Now, we have one more scene, which is Miguel fighting Kyler, but there's one thing I want to get into before that. We obviously get Sam and Miguel getting back together, which is fine because at this point, Tori is kind of crazy. At first, she was a little justifiable, but now she's kind of crazy. But season 1 already established them as a couple, and Miguel clearly was hesitating even while dating Tori about Sam throughout season 2, and this relationship was kind of just hinted at to us. A little nice moment is when Miguel even tries to stand up for Sam, and when Robbie tries to strike first, Sam obviously defends this and tells Robbie to fuck off. This led into the two dojos deciding to try and combine with each other, or Sam and Miguel just clearly planning this to try and have them work together because they need to. And we would then get his fight with his old bully once again, who actually learned karate. Now, Miguel at this point can't even throw a kick. He's crippled, so he's kind of getting his ass beat pretty badly. However, we get the scene of him fighting to wake up and getting back up and fighting. This scene also reveals when Johnny first spoke to Miguel, and when he was knocked out, Miguel actually heard that and his words are flowing through his head. And just like how I was saying earlier, this scene shows how Miguel as a character, no matter how bad the odds are, will just keep on getting up and fight. And no matter how bad the odds are, he's just going to try and clutch it up, because that's who he was in Season 1, and that's who he became to be at the end of Season 3. By proceeding to kick Kyler and overwhelming him, and then putting him in his place. This scene concludes his rise back up instead of continuing to fall, and this was the fall and rise of Miguel Diaz. Holy shit. I literally conveyed my entire reason as to why my favorite character in Cobra Kai is my favorite, and it took a lot out of me. I'm very tired, probably gonna go to sleep. And with that being said, if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like, share it with your friends, subscribe if you are new. If you want more Cobra Kai content, let me know down below what kind of videos you want me to do. Follow me on Twitter, share with your friends, hit the bell icon so you're constantly updated and notified when I upload. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, take care everybody.